Hey, we're excited. It's a holiday season. We have two great events happening simultaneously at Hersey tonight. One is art therapy gifted to us by the Road Home program from my good friend Will Beiersdorf. Veterans from all walks of life shared their stories through masks.
There's the outer self that we show the world, and then the inner self that we don't show anybody. And some of the masks show how others perceive us and how we perceive ourselves on the inside. And they're very powerful in that way when you can see the juxtaposition between how different they are in pretty much every mask.
And the veterans wanted to share these with our community to normalize mental health. They were seriously hoping that young people would, find some courage to heal and some hope, because all of them shared their masks and their stories, recognizing, you know what, I'm good with me no matter what. And they wanted to connect the veteran community to our community. Simultaneously this night we have veterans, local veterans come in. They are judges for our Ginger Build, which all the funds go to A Soldier's Journey Home. We got hundreds of houses to be built tonight to honor our country, our school, and the things kids belong to, the Huskies, and local veterans are our judges. It's a spirited event. For 10 years, Hersey Huskies have dedicated some time and created a spirited event to raise funds for A Soldier's Journey Home to help build a home for a handicapped accessible veteran. And this is one of my favorite nights of the year because we're having an absolute blast. It's a short event, but it's electric with good energy because the holidays are here. Everybody's included, absolute blast, and we know behind all the fun, this is a great cause. We raised some funds for Soldier's Journey Home. We brought spirit, we educated kids, we welcomed veterans to our community, and we couldn't be happier.
The exchange programs at Prospect are unique because we get to offer a true exchange experience for our students. There are 3 at Prospect that correspond with our 3 languages, Italian, French, and Spanish. Our students get to first host in the fall, so all 3 of our languages host students, the European students in the fall, and then our students travel for spring break. So in addition to their language skills that they build over the course of their courses, this is a true capstone experience that allows them to culturally meet students, host them, travel there, and have the homestay experience as well.
I think from 2 different perspectives. A language teacher perspective, we get to see our students using the language in a real tangible environment outside the walls of the building, which we all have been trying to foster for such a long time, and we get to see it come to fruition. The other piece of that is the students' perspective, and both when they have students here, they're opening up their hearts and their minds to a new perspective and a new culture. And then when they go abroad, I think it really solidifies for everybody that they are not only able to use their language, but also see the world through a different lens, which leads hopefully to exponential growth in the future.
I do have to say it's pretty cool that we have a program with exchange students, because it's really different to have exchange student and to be in a family in another country than to just go with the class on a school trip, because you really have the full experience, which is pretty cool. And I think it's more like complete, like you can really be in the life of an American student, which wouldn't be the fact if we were just going on a school trip here.
Tomorrow we are going to see Chicago, so I can't wait for it, and to just see the river, do the boat tour and all the museums that are here, and also like try typical food, for example like bagels, but also like the deep dish pizza.
I heard a lot of older students that had done this program and the experiences that they had, like the friendships they built, and just the opportunity to say like, oh, I was an exchange student like in a foreign country. It's just something so cool that I think I'll reflect on for the rest of my life.
I hope to get like a lifetime friendship maybe, and learn about the cultures and traditions and the food, because I've never been to the US and it seems really exciting.
I think for me, one of the most important reasons why this exchange is so important is because it's one thing to learn a language and a culture in a classroom, but to really live it, I think really instills some sort of pride and passion for students to continue their learning. I know for me personally, when I found out that Prospect was one of the only high schools that offered an exchange program, I knew that this was my goal to be here, because I wanted to be able to give my students that opportunity to become lifelong learners and to continue using this language beyond the walls of school and hopefully into their futures as well.
I'm really excited about this because it feels really like different, and at first it felt unreal, but right now I'm realizing that it is true, so it's a great experience, and I hope a lot of people will do this in the next years.
Three, two, one, action! So today we are doing the District 214 Arts Unlimited Drama Day, and for the first time ever, we've collaborated with Harper College. We've provided our students from across the 6 schools in District 214 an opportunity to learn about all different areas in drama. It's super exciting, and because of our collaboration and with the help of Kevin Long at Harper College, we have brought in some amazing experts to work with our students in drama and theater. We have students doing musical theater. We have students doing stage combat and fighting. We have students learning about the Shakespeare folio and how to speak the Shakespearean text, how to act on camera, how to build a set, paint a set, design costumes.
The class that I'm doing is called Acting.
Approval of minutes for the open and closed.
So moved.
Does someone want me to take these individually? Because I'll wrap them together. Open and closed meeting of December 14th and the open and closed meeting of the special meeting of December 21st. If several people want to address the board on similar topics, the board president may limit the time to 2 minutes per person. The public comments agenda item will be the only time that the Board of Education will hear public comments during meetings. Although comments may be made on most any matter related to the operation of schools, comments will not be allowed identifying individual students or staff members. As this is the Board of Education business meeting, the board practice is not to respond to public questions or comments at this time because this is not an open-ended forum. However, we do listen carefully. If requested, a written response will be provided. If you wish a written response, please ensure that Ms. Keys has your full name and address on the sign-up sheet. To be fair and consistent to all addressing the board, the same protocols and procedures must be in place for everyone. On the dais, there is a green light that indicates your time has started, the yellow light indicates 30 seconds remaining, and the red light indicates your 3 minutes have expired. So if you want to come forward to the microphone and clearly state your name for the minutes. This is Gary Garland. Could you please come forward, Gary?
Greg Garland.
I'm sorry, Greg.
No problem.
New prescription needed. Go ahead.
All right. I just wanted to say about we've received a couple emails about attendance and kids, and I understand how important it is. I also want to address the December 22nd email about improvement of mechanical systems for the students and their environment for learning and stuff, but I just feel that with the block schedule that the district moved to from the 8-period schedule, it's allowed the kids to fill their time with other activities. They are not mature enough to handle it, and their free time, and that, I feel that the one extra elective has been sacrificed for keeping the kids engaged and not having math every day. I mean, going from the 8-period schedule, we had to insert the 45-minute lunch period, which is 11% less minutes that teachers are in front of the students. Every other week, teachers are only in front of the students 960 minutes, down from the 1175 minutes that it used to be with 5 periods per day. That's an 18% loss. So it's almost 29% of reduced time of teachers engaged in the classroom with the students. And I know that there's availability with the students to go on their own and learn, but they're lazy. These kids, they're not mature enough, I feel. These are 14, 15-year-olds, and again, it's even with the teachers, with the union agreement, they're allowed up to 1,500 minutes per week, and only teaching 5 classes per day. In the block schedule, there are only 4 classes per day. In the new union agreement, will teachers be required to do 3 classes a day? Because I know that there's also a limit on how many students per day that they can be allowed to teach. It's 140 on the limit. Mm-hmm. So with minutes in teaching per day and the students, getting them in front of the students, keeping them in front of students, it's just too much lost time out there. Because a lot of teachers, only if they're allowed 140 per day and they're only teaching 2 classes a day, they're only seeing and engaging with maybe 35 students within their classroom in each class. So that maybe 70 total. It's half the time. And I've never agreed with 2 academic classes per school day of 160 minutes is qualifying as a full day of education. Having a daughter that was in gym waiver and lunch period, it's only 2 classes. I just don't feel it's right out there.
Thank you, and I apologize. Greg. The next person that signed up is Elizabeth Bauer.
All right, so good evening. Happy New Year, everyone. Chair, first I wanted to address the Earned Honors Report that's coming up later this evening. I may have to duck out, so I might actually have to miss that. But I'm glad this is finally on the agenda. At the same time, I'm disappointed at a couple things. First, that there's no information in the report that's available to the public or the executive summary on the process for actually concluding the pilot. Second, there are a number of concerns with the report itself, and it's kind of what I do for a living. So my concern is, first of all, that it cherry picks results to suggest that more students are taking AP classes. It's providing false comparisons between traditional honors and earned honors to overstate the benefit. At the same time, nowhere in the evaluation that's available to the public is a real discussion of how this is impacting actual student learning. Obviously, if I had access to the data, I would do my own analysis. Absent that, I hope that you'll all use all the critical data analysis skills that you yourselves can muster on this point, rather than just signing off on something. Second, I wanted to address the Ethics Commission, which, as you know, met over 2 years ago, and the commission accepted the investigators' recommendation to bring a set of policy changes to you, the board. That's 2 months ago, and I'm really confused as to why that actually hasn't happened yet. In addition, just to flag for you the fact that the investigator was factually incorrect on at least one point. He said that the solicitation of the $3,000 that took place was not a violation of the policy because of an exemption of $75 per person per day. But even though that's in state law, your own policy does not have an exemption of any kind for soliciting gifts. I don't know whether you intentionally made the board policy a higher standard than state law, or whether you accidentally gave yourselves a stricter standard, but it's there. Third, in reading through the public meeting packet, all of a sudden in the discussion on the fees, there's a statement that in 2026 you're projecting an operating deficit. And that was a bit of a surprise given how insistent you are that you all are very fiscally prudent. I went back to the latest meritorious budget, and it's not as meritorious as it usually is. You cut it in half from 300 to 150 pages. And in the statement, in the section on long-term financial projections, there's a vague statement of the budget is balanced for the next several years. So something's going on there, and I'd really like to know why all of a sudden the budget isn't balanced anymore.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving on to discussion items. I know the board policies are really lengthy, but after the legislature is done, we really get this done from the association about updating policies. So, Dr. Rowe, would you like to talk about policy changes, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So the policies that are in front of you, a number of them are updates to the legal side of things or some footnotes, but there are a handful of more substantive changes that I'd like to bring your attention to. Just to go down my list here, I have about 7 or 8 to highlight briefly. Policy 2:20 raises the bidding threshold from $35,000 from $25,000, offering districts a little bit more flexibility to work with a trusted partner before it has to go out to bid. Typically, the things that you see, the contracts are much larger than that $25,000 anyway, but the threshold is now $35,000 per state. 4:10 requires districts to present an annual report of average expenditures of the district's operational funds from the previous 3 years at a board meeting. So you can expect that annually coming to an overview of the average of those 3 years annually from us. 4:60 pertains to contracts again, allowing districts to utilize a design-build construction project with specific parameters. And design-build is a construction project process that actually has the architect and the construction management in one entity. So instead of bidding on separate projects, it does allow for some of this. A lot of times you'll see that in a performance contract, much like the district used in years prior with the A building in this building. We're big enough and our projects are big enough, we prefer the bidding process. That gives, it's nice for some smaller districts especially to use, have that flexibility. And this also addresses requiring district-wide assessment contracts to be presented and approved at a board meeting. So for instance, we use Horizons, in some cases a STAR assessment, or some districts use the NWEA MAP assessment. Those types of assessments must come before the board for approval. 5:190 extends short-term sub-teaching licenses as a type of teaching license until June 30th of 2028. It's a 5-year extension, creating a little bit more flexibility to fill some of the vacancies left in the classroom with a teacher shortage. 5:210 amends policy to include non-tenured teachers in the provision that tenured teachers have had to live with for many, many years. That you may, if you resign within a 30-day window from the first student attendance day, the district has the right to deny that resignation or teacher risks their license being withheld. Prior, that was only tenured teachers that applied to, but due to the shortage, and there was a lot of movement in the last 2 years in the final hours of summer, and put districts in a pinch where they would hire a teacher and that teacher might accept another job at the 11th hour. It really harmful to our planning. So I think that's a good move. 5:250 expands leave of absence policy to expand unpaid leave to employees dealing with loss of a child by suicide or homicide. So offering some additional provisions to take care of families when they're dealing with family tragedy. 6:60 requires instruction of Native American history as well as the dangers of fentanyl use. So that's something we've seen coming and are totally prepared for, but that just calling that out. 7:290 requires teachers, administrators, and school support personnel who work with students to be trained on identifying warning signs of mental illness, trauma, and suicidal behavior in our youth. I'm sure that we'll tackle that through our GCNs as well as some in-person training in our annual training battery that we have. 8:30 adds a provision allowing boards to meet in closed session for hearings regarding denial of admission to school activities and/or events. I think this is an unfortunate necessity in the rise of confrontational and bad behavior at a lot of sporting events. That allows boards to take action on withholding the ability to attend sporting events if people can't control themselves while they're in attendance. And then one that doesn't impact us because we're a high school district, but it's worth calling out, is the state of Illinois is now moving to full-day kindergarten requirements. So 6:30, a lot of our feeder districts are wrestling with that. I believe Arlington Heights 25 is in the midst of a pretty sizable construction project in preparation for that, as well as many others. So doesn't impact us in the immediate, but it's something that our communities are dealing with. With that, happy to engage in any questions you might have.
Board members, I'll open the floor to anyone that has a question about any of the policies. Just to note, 5:330 is Election Day. Schools will now be closed, the November Election Day, I should say. Okay, I don't hear anything, so we'll move on. So a discussion about the proposed permission to dispose of closed audio recording 712. Any discussion, board members? 713, the review of closed minutes. Discussion, board members? Thank you. 7.2, Finance and Business Services. Mr. Keeley, you're up.
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, Board of Education, Madam President. The first item we have here is the approval of the renewal of the Community Ed course catalog contract. You'll remember back in June of last year now, the board approved the award of that printing contract to the lowest responsive bidder. They are KK Stevens out of Astoria, Illinois. and they were approximately 10% lower than the second lowest bidder. The bid called for year 2 pricing guaranteed in the bid, which they did, and they put it around 5%. So we're here this evening to discuss this with you, with the understanding that we'll be recommending the extension of that contract for 1 year into the next year at the January 25th meeting. And our friends in DPS have reported that it's been a very good contract. They've done great work, been on time and on budget.
Open the floor to board members.
I just wanted to compliment you, Tim. Clearly, we are entering into a contract or have a contract with somebody who provides quality work, and financially, it's a sound decision for all of our stakeholders.
Anyone else?
I just had a quick question, Tim. So we had them for the year. It wasn't a 2-year contract initially, correct?
Correct.
And they increased it by what percentage for the second year?
It's approximately 5%, so it depends on the volume. We're estimating it to be around $57,000 in year 2.
Okay, for the total or for the increase?
No, for the total.
For the
yes.
total, okay. And we didn't need to go out to bid for this next year because it was a continual of the contract?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else?
One quick question. So I don't exactly know where Astoria is, but is there a freight factor
Fulton
involved?
County, Illinois.
Okay. Is there a freight factor involved that's not included in the pricing?
No, this is the cost of the services.
Delivered price?
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, board members, thank you. You're up again.
Great. The next item up for discussion this evening, we have discussed as an administration, the board tasked the administration, the superintendent tasked the business office with doing some research on the return of student fees in the coming school year, the 24-25 school year. As we all know, there was a pandemic, and during that time, and since then, the board has opted to waive student fees to provide relief to our families during that time, and the budget and fund balance has supplemented that during that time. The business office did quite a bit of research. They looked back through 18 years worth of fees here at District 214, really analyzed closely about 7 years worth of revenue, and then compared our former fees with current fees for our comparable districts, the high school districts in the collar counties here. And a couple things of note, there we provide a table that shows the registration fees since 2010-11. You see that the fees went as high as $460 in the 14-15 school year. Mr. Dustling had shared today with me that at that time the board had decided they wanted to try and kind of assure folks of 4 years of the same fee. At that point, we found that in 14-15, but then we lowered the fee in the following year. So that's a strategy that's out there as well that could be included in the recommendation at the January 25th meeting. A couple data points. The fee revenue in fiscal year 19 was about $3.7 million, and in fiscal year 20 it was $3.5 million, and that's at that $420 rate. Part of the recommendation that we're crafting at this point, pending discussion this evening, would be eliminating the co-curricular fees, the $65 per activity. And again, for context, in fiscal year 19, that was about $360,000, and in 20, it was about $320,000. Of note as well, the fees are waived for free students with a fee waiver, and in fiscal year 22, our data shows that about 28% of our students, or 3,400, would have qualified for that fee waiver. And then just a minor point is that when you compare against the comparable districts, there are a la carte items that they're charging that are included in our base fee, including the technology fee and other items such as gym uniforms and locks. And then again, on the next page, you see the comparison with other districts. The data there is showing current year fees. Most school districts around this time of year are talking about that for next year fees. So we don't have next year's fees available. And with that, I'll open up the floor for questions.
Open the floor, board members. Go ahead.
Tim, at first glance in comparison across the districts, we have a neighboring district that seems significantly lower, or at least half of what we're looking at. Can you explain to me why we need to be as high as we are, or where that money would go for the taxpayers, please?
Certainly. Student fees are one of those things that really rely on past precedent. And as you can see on the first page, our fees were actually a bit higher as recently as 8 or 9 years ago. All the time in that table there, we've had significant inflation. Now, our costs have gone up, but the fees have gone down a little bit, and we've waived them for 3 years. So I guess what I'm dancing around is it supports the operations of the district, and for $3.7 million, any adjustments we make, we would have to find that revenue elsewhere. It can't in perpetuity come out of fund balance. It's done well up to this point, but again, as was discussed earlier in a public comment, we're looking at a deficit if we don't change some things moving forward.
In the neighboring district that is lower, have you compared their additional fees? Because when I look at the participation fee, that it's zero. Were there additional fees that would be additive, that would compare to the rate that we're charging?
Nothing significant.
Okay.
No.
All right. Thank you.
Board members? Mr. Dustling.
Just a couple things. I think the 420 is too high for the fee at this time. And I'm wondering, we did have a program in place to charge freshman students as they came in a fee, and that was the same fee they were charged for the remaining 3 years. Right. Which seems to be what some of the colleges do, or a number of colleges do. And I'm wondering why we wouldn't try that again. It certainly gives you the opportunity to increase, if you have to, the next freshman class coming in. But I think the 420 is too high.
Board members? Mr. Walker?
Well, I agree with the 420 being at the upper end, but can we talk about, if you have the numbers for waivers, do the waiver numbers, have they gone up over the past few years? What's the impact with the waivers? Because I think there's that subgroup of parents that are waivers. There's people that are struggling that don't make waivers, and then it's, the other bucket, we'll say. But that group that's in the middle really gets hit by this, and I think 420 is a big sting when the neighboring districts are not that, and I think we have to do some digging to just dig in and make sure everybody's okay with that. I mean, it's a big number if you have more than one child coming into District 214, and
certainly
people are right on the edge of stuff, so I think we have to be very conscious of that.
Certainly. Yeah, I cannot in this moment speak on the historical waiver numbers. We can gather that and provide it to the board in advance of the next meeting for sure.
That would be helpful.
I have one additional question. I'm going to let you finish taking your notes. No. If a family, and that 420 is not just for family, that's per student, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And I agree with the other board members who said I think it is high, especially, because if you have more than one student, you're close to $1,000. And yes, especially that group that is close to the edge. I agree. So yes, if you could please, thank you.
Go ahead.
Following up on Ms. Rauch, are we aware of any other districts that allow a second student discount? Or have we done that in the past, or would that be just a record-keeping nightmare? But like first student pays full rate, second student in the family in the same time frame, right?
It's not uncommon at all.
Yeah, in my past district, we did that with transportation. So there's a way to cap it. If the board so chose to make a family cap, that's something that's possible.
I would like to see something like that, because when my oldest got into her, third year high school, from then on, I always had 2 kids in for about a decade. And, it was a lot in those years, right? So. We were in those 2015 years.
Okay, anyone else? Go ahead, Mr. Ferrero.
Have we ever thought about, like the district I came from, D214, it was the same thing, where if you had 3 children, the first person paid full price for the bus, and the other 2 would get discounted rates. Have we ever considered charging for the bus in lieu of some of these fees?
Well, I would say that in 6 months, that topic has not come up.
Okay.
But it's an interesting idea and concept, especially considering transportation costs are not only going up, but are also outsourced. So,
because in reality, the student fees are covering probably some of the bus, are they not?
Absolutely.
It covers operational costs. The information I have here, again, new guy, we do charge for transportation if you do not qualify for a bus.
Right.
Because of course, if you're over a mile and a half or have a safety hazard, you're afforded free busing. So on the spreadsheet here, I'm seeing $675 for 1 student, $550 for 2 or more students. So we do have that. I can get some information on how many of those fees are charged so we can understand how many students are not eligible but choosing to pay to ride.
I mean, do we have any idea how many people do take the bus?
Off the top of my head, I don't.
Because, I mean, if you had that number, that could certainly...
You mean paid or just ridership?
Take the bus.
Just ridership.
Because if you had that number, you can, if you put a
could get
cost...
that from our partner easily.
Yeah. If you put a cost to it, say it's $400 for the year. I mean, that might be one of the ways where you could recoup some of the dollars if we, as a board, decide that the fee's too high or the fee should go away.
And we'd only be able to charge for students that are less than a mile and a half.
Right.
Without a safety hazard. So that's not a
small number.
A large number of students. In a high school district, also where they're carpooling and driving, it's even fewer.
So the high school districts are different than the elementary districts when it comes to that?
Well, state law is a mile and a half. You don't have to require, you don't have to provide transportation within a mile and a half from the school unless you have a hazardous designation close to the building.
All right, thank you.
And we have a...
Little kids can't.
Yeah, it's a different world than from where I came from.
And I think there's at least 4 hazardous areas. I can't recall them.
The state has an entire formula as to, once you get to a certain threshold of hazardous designations, then you can provide transportation for all, and you get additional reimbursement for that. So we're not there. But I appreciate this feedback. I think, Mr. Keeley and I will go back and come back with some different suggestions for you the next meeting for continued discussion.
Thank you.
Unless there are any other points. I don't want to close the conversation out if you want to
I
keep
just
going.
have one small point, and it's irrelevant, honestly, of the cost and everything, but has there been any consideration? I always worry about our administrators who have to deal with last-minute registration. Would there be consideration that, a fee increase the later you register, so that maybe on the front end?
That's also not totally uncommon, that you offer a slightly reduced rate if you register before a certain window so that we can capture the number of students. In my prior district, that was a common practice, and I think it's probably common.
We used to.
It's the same here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that early bird discount.
Right.
3+ years since we've had it. Think about the change just at this table of, who were involved in that, so.
Sure. No, and I appreciate it. I mean, I think the district's done a great job in, waiving those for the past 3 years, like you said, and has accommodated accordingly, but, I think it needs to be.
Definitely a motivator to sign up quickly.
Thank
so
you.
that way we
Yes, we have to be very careful. It's not a penalty.
Not
It's
a
a
penalty.
discount.
Right.
Early bird
Get the
discount.
carrot, not the stick.
No, but genuinely, I do appreciate the conversation. We'll come back with another angle at this and see if we can strike a happy medium.
Let me just make one more comment, if I may. Sure. So, the carrot and the stick, I understand that, but I think we have to look harder at the population and demographics that we have, that even if you offered $100 less, they don't have the cash or the money to do it on that early day. So, one thing that concerns me here, and I think it's on everybody's mind, we did it for 3 years. Fund balance worked great. But you have people that we're going to say next year, oh, you have 2 kids, it's $1,000. And that $1,000 is hard to get when you have healthcare coverage going up, like unforeseen. And we made recommendations here, right? And we made adjustments for our team here. But there's other people that don't have that luxury, and that $1,000 really, and I know everybody's empathetic to this, but I think we really got to dig hard and look at how we can impact this without making it such a burden on people. Because I do think that there's that slice that really will get hit hard by this.
I hear you, Mr. Walker, and I think that even outside that slice, regardless of where you are on the income scale, we're all feeling absolute inflation in different ways. I mean, everything is more expensive. But to your point, and actually to comment on and address one of the public comments Ms. Bauer mentioned a little while ago, the out years of a 5-year projection are not totally uncommon to be unbalanced, because there's a lot of unknowns and everything's baked in and things change usually in 2-year increments where things are really, really tight and there. But some of the district's habits and some of the things we've done because of our response to COVID have elevated our costs. So, Mr. Keeley and the superintendency team has actually spent considerable amount of time diving in and dissecting what we've done over the last several years and where we need to go so that an balanced operational budget is our priority. I heard that from day one of the interview to probably 3 or 4 of the board meetings we've had in the last 6 months. That's been mentioned regularly. So it's not something that's been lost on us, and it's something we intend to carry forward. And I say it in total sincerity that our intention is really bringing a kind of a tier 1 EBF mindset to a tier 4 district. We are a well-resourced district. We don't take those resources for granted. We intend to extend them and expand them as far as we possibly can with what we have. And we just have to remember the additional spends over the last handful of years in response to a 100-year crisis that we faced, in addition to aging buildings that have an $800 million price tag. There's a lot we have to balance. And we do not have any intention of going and asking the community or coming to you asking for permission to ask the community for additional dollars. We're intent on trying to do that ourselves. And a lot of that in thinking, go back to where we were pre-pandemic, is where the conversation tonight came from. And I hear you loud and clear. We'll come back with some additional suggestions for this, but our fiscally responsible conversations going forward are going to include, we have to find ways to trim what we're doing so that our students continue to have the world-class experience in the classroom that they are having, but there are efficiencies. I talked about it at the last board meeting, the green initiative efficiencies. We need to go down these roads and embark on how we can save money on energy so we can divert and avoid having to come say we need an increase in student registration fees. All of that plays into the same conversation. So those are the conversations we're having. They're not ready for prime time yet, but we're on the right road, and we're eager for the conversation with you when we have some of those ideas and solutions that we can share where we're headed. The strategic planning process is going to play a huge role in that next year to hear from our community who they want District 214 to be 15, 20 years from now, and how we can work towards that. And the financial resources that we have at our disposal play a huge role in that. But we intend to be stewards of this community's tax dollars is a high priority for us, and we don't take that lightly. But I genuinely appreciate the conversation. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a different approach.
Thank you. Mr. Keeley, you're up again.
Excellent. So the next discussion item, again, is a recommendation that will come back to the January 25th Board of Education meeting. We went out to bid for musical instruments. There was approximately $1 million of ESSER 3 funds set aside for this. This, as is typical in most school districts, there is significant need for replacement of equipment, and the opportunity is there. I know Dr. Lopez worked on this. If we get into deep conversation information about how we got there, I'm going to defer to him. I'm here to explain the transaction part of the deal. We did put it out to bid. We received quite a few responses. The one area we did not receive responses were on the 2 replacement grand pianos, and those are the specific brand that our music group was looking for, the district-wide music committee was looking for, were Baldwin Grand, and they're sole sourced through one distributor in the area. So we were able to secure favorable pricing from a resident in the district who is the owner of that distributor, and provided we receive authorization at January 25th meeting, in addition to what you see before you, we'll execute purchase orders for those 2 pianos as well. I would entertain any questions you may have right now. Not a musical guy, so please don't ask me to play any music.
Yeah, don't ever ask me to sing. So we had this recently, was it June? I forget. When did we?
Yeah, so this has been almost a 24-month process. We had an initial round of immediate needs. So our music staff did an audit of all the equipment, spent 6 months doing that. Then they had to reach consensus on a standard. Everybody had different violins, everybody had different, so they had to identify a standard piece of equipment, and they did that process first, and from that process they identified immediate needs that were urgent. It was a much smaller purchase, I think closer to $100,000 or so, it was much smaller. We did those, and that laid the groundwork for them to continue to work so that we can put together this extensive sort of expectations of standards for equipments that really are standardized across the district, and so it's a significant investment in our music program.
So how often do you think we will see this?
This is the first time we've ever done this.
Right.
It was a unique opportunity. One of the changes we did make in this year's budget, which we would see if we'll be able to continue, was to allocate an annual allocation as part of our materials, instructional materials fund, so that there is a set aside of about $20,000 per school each year to replace musical instruments as needed, so that we don't have to do another sort of big buy.
Okay, understood. Board members? Mr. Walker?
Just a quick question. With what we learned with the standardization of the equipment, are we sharing that with the sender district, so we're setting them up for success as well?
Oh,
that's a great idea, and I'll talk to Jeremy, who's our fine arts coordinator, to make sure we communicate that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Rowe?
So this proposal here is going to come out of the ESSER funds.
Yes.
And then going forward, this will be the last year, and the 20 grand is in the budget thereafter?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Oh, Mr. Dussling.
I want to thank the parent music organizations who have, over the years, and since I've been on the board, this is the first time I've ever seen something like this happen, and the ESSER funds were there. But the funding of musical instruments was primarily in the hands of the parent music organizations. And I got to tell you, they did a great job of bringing in instruments, replacing instruments, but there's only so much you can do with the number of instruments we have. If we're going to be a fine arts district of quality, we have got to have students that play instruments that are playable instead of being taped up in some cases as we had. So I compliment you, I compliment Dr. Lopez for this, and I look forward to us doing this in the future, because we've done this for the normal. We've done it for athletics. We bought all kinds of team uniforms and everything else over the years. We ought to be doing something for this process. So I'm glad to see it's going to be moving forward. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Keeley. Human Resources, Ms. Kraft, any report? None. What?
Nothing to report. We'll be beginning our negotiations with our Education Association next month, so I'll have plenty to report at future meetings.
Thank you. 7.4 Operations, Mr. Yulee.
Item 1 is the proposed Prospect Roof HVAC and electrical install. This is component 2 of the Prospect Roof project. The board previously approved the actual roof replacement last month, so this is the second component, and this is for the install of the rooftop units that we also prior approved purchase through cooperative purchase through Train. So this is component 2 of the Prospect Roof project this summer.
Any questions, board members?
I do.
Go ahead.
It really will go hand in hand also with the Elk Grove culinary arts renovations. It was a big deal in my former district in D214, and that is the 10% contingency fee. We always felt that 10% contingency fee actually represented what we were going to pay, not what we could possibly pay. It was always seemed to be that we always got that contingency fee. So my only comment is, would it be possible to notify the board if we are going to face that contingency fee in both this Prospect High School roof replacement as well as the Elk Grove culinary arts renovations? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think Dr. Rowe and Mr. Khalil and I have had many conversations about these projects, and I think our plan is to bring to the board the final costs of these projects so we can see the actual costs associated with these projects, and we'll provide that transparency.
All right, great, thanks, Chris, appreciate that.
Any other questions, board members? On to the next item.
Item 2 is the proposed cooperative purchase for a chiller at Forest View and a chiller at Prospect. A chiller is to cooling what a boiler is to heating. What's unique about these chillers is in 2020, the EPA has banned the use of refrigerant 22. That's essentially like Freon in your house. So they no longer produce or import R22 in the United States, and we have to phase out any units with R22 by 2030. These units are also aging and beyond their lifespan, 1999 at Forest View and 1993 at Prospect. So this is associated with our facility assessment and our capital improvement plan. We use these units to cool the building. So essentially, we're ready to replace these 2 units.
And you said through a cooperative purchase.
Cooperative purchase, yes.
Good. Board members?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Are those the only 2 schools with those types of chillers that have to be replaced under that program?
No. Some are new units, but we know we have that deadline, and any remaining chillers will be reflected in that 10-year plan.
Okay.
I have a question. So I know that the new equipment we're going to get might cost, say, $1 million, but I think what would be important to educate our stakeholders on is that if we take into consideration what the cost of the R2 refrigerant is, as well the labor that we have to do every year to Band-Aid that stuff until we can get the new stuff, I think it'd be important to show the public that while the cost of the equipment was $1 million, if we didn't do the cost of the equipment, we'd still be spending, say, $100,000 on the refrigerant cost and the labor.
Assuming we can get the refrigerant.
Yeah.
Right, because it's being phased out. Now, we do have a stockpile, and that we're confident that can get us through. We did Ms. Mistack in operations pulled a number for us that if in a chiller emergency, if we lost all refrigerant, it would cost approximately $23,000 to recharge that unit.
In a single instant?
Single emergency, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
And that's been a lot of our conversation around the replacement of these energy-consuming items, is that return on investment is a part of what we share, Mr. Fiorito. So that way we can talk about what's you have to spend a little bit to save a little bit in the long run, and that's we'll be reflecting. That'll be a regular occurrence moving forward. Appreciate that point.
Okay, anyone else?
Yes.
Go ahead.
What is the expected life of these units, and what is the expected life of the new units?
This is a great question. I don't know that off the top of my head. I will definitely follow up with that information.
Thank you.
Go back to Mr. Heineman with that answer, please. Okay, so we're on to the culinary arts renovation at Elk Grove.
Yes. Item 3 is the proposed bid awards for the Elk Grove Culinary Arts renovations. This is the final summer 24 project. Very, very excited to discuss this project. This design phase has been approximately 2 to 3 months in the making, with heavy input from our culinary arts teacher at Elk Grove, along with the administration. So the bid package is approximately 9 packages that address the demolition, general trades, electrical, et cetera. We do have a rendering to share with all of you, and facing the screen right now, what we're looking at is the entry point into that classroom. On the right are the, I think they're banks of lockers now, if I'm correct. So that's the wall entering the classroom, the culinary arts. So what we're doing is taking 2 classrooms and making a large space, and there's also still classroom space, which we will see shortly. Thank you. So again, this is a culinary arts space, and it's fairly state-of-the-art and looks beautiful. And what you're seeing is industrial-grade equipment. You see the teacher. We don't see the teacher station yet, but you see the student workstations, and this is looking towards the courtyard. You see through those windows in the back. Thank you. Here's another view of the space. We're doing the drops from the ceiling for any electrical needs. Stainless steel. You can go next for me, Jason. This is the back to the proposed classroom area. Again, large space. This is the proposed classroom area. These are not final design. This is still pretty rough rendering, so all the designs and the colors and the final finishes are not reflected in this rendering. One more, Jason, is there one more? That's it? Okay, what you're not seeing in this rendering is there's actually a glass partition between the actual culinary space and the classroom space, so it allows some flexibility, kids to go work in this space and still have supervision, and it's going to be a nice, beautiful space.
So the culinary arts teacher was in on the design?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, didn't the Elk Grove culinary students win the Senator Gillespie Bake-Off last year?
Oh, that's
They're going to be very
This
jealous.
is not the award for winning that bake-off, by the way. We're not doing this again.
Other schools should,
It looks great. Board members, questions?
I have a
Mr. Yuli,
question. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Mine's going to be real quick. The electrical drops, is that standard? I mean, I worry about this big box in the middle of a table that students could hit because they're working around. I mean, I realize that it is an industrial area, but is that standard now?
It's similar to like an auto shop, and it provides flexibility. They retract up, and so you're able to kind of move around, pull it up, pull it down if you need to.
Okay, and it's deemed safe and everything. I mean, I
Yeah,
know in
absolutely.
some of the other areas they may have, okay. All right, thank you.
So in some of my tours of schools and facilities, I noticed that culinary arts was one area where we have great discrepancies. In Building A might have really good culinary arts space, Building B really. So is this going to be our standard that we're looking to match in district, much like we have here at Forest View C Wing?
Yes.
Is it? What's it?
It is
That's
C,
a
yes,
guess, yeah. So is this going to be sort of our standard of what we're trying to achieve?
Absolutely.
Okay, because, I'd like to see over time, and I know I beat this horse a lot, but these kind of spaces are laboratory science type spaces to have the same types of access to the same types of equipment across the district, right? We don't have to become identical modular buildings, but levels of care. It's really important.
Agree.
And there's an additional something actually very special about this project, is, we've got great partners throughout the school district on the business community, but also in our villages. And we hear a lot about TIF districts. We have 19 of them. Elk Grove manages their TIFs at an exceptional level, and they are a wonderful partner. And when talking about this, we were approached by Mayor Johnson in Elk Grove and with an offer to share some of their TIF surplus dollars, and Elk Grove is donating $750,000 toward this project. So Ms. Kreutzer and Dr. Kelly and I will be attending the Elk Grove Village Board meeting on February 13th, I believe, to accept the check for $750,000 toward this project. So we greatly appreciate that partnership. It honestly is what elevated and it made it possible for us to do it this summer instead of putting on the priorities list down the road. So we're really grateful for that thoughtful donation and partnership.
So I just thought that you're doing student services and the culinary arts. A lot of construction at Elk Grove.
That is correct. Elk Grove is going to be a busy place. Dr. Kelly and team have been very flexible in creating, vacating some areas early in the school year so we can get a head start and maximize our time. So we appreciate that.
You know, I love that you shared with us Elk Grove and their generosity. I wonder, Mr. Moggy, if that was something we could put together a package on and perhaps send to some of the other municipal, villages, et cetera, about, hey, look what Elk Grove is doing, not to, say they're really great, but
Those are some conversations that go on.
to encourage other,
We're in several
Still
conversations.
trying to form relationships with Palmer. Let's look for a few years.
The big one in Arlington Heights that's coming.
My mama always said, if you don't ask, no one can say no, so.
That's a very good point.
So the dollar.
We'll be able to ask a brand-new partner in a few years for big donations.
So the dollar amount you have here, the 1.6, does that take into consideration the 750,000? So you take away 750,000 from this, and then you get the amount that we'll be spending. I know we don't have check in hand, so we have to say
Right.
what the total dollar amount. Okay, go ahead.
I was at the Elk Grove PTC meeting on Tuesday night, and there was a rumor flying around that Principal Kelly, who is known as the Chef Boyardee at Grenadier Nation, was going to be preparing the first meal when the ribbon cutting was being done at the Culinary Arts. I just was looking for a confirmation.
I've begun searching Pinterest for ideas.
Great, thank you.
Macaroni and cheese and peanut butter and jelly for all.
Oh, love that.
Okay, thank you. What do we got next? Portable restrooms. Ooh.
No easy way to transition to this
We talk
item.
about food and now we talk about, okay, go.
And we're talking about used restroom trailers. Used, hear me out.
I see how you can spin this.
Yeah, so we have 3 locations where our stadiums do not have outdoor bathrooms. That is Elk Grove, Prospect, and Rolling Meadows. At each site, we pay approximately $34,000 a year to rent one of those trailers, I'm sure you've all seen them, and park that near the stadium or in the stadium for a span of 5-ish months. This was actually not a Ms. X idea. I can't take any credit for it. She researched the actual cost to purchase these trailers, and we figured out that we can buy a used, obviously cleaned and tidied up restroom trailer for 3 for a total cost of $200,000. The service costs will be about $1,000 per year, so this is really a cost-effective measure, and this allows us to buy the time to get to the point in the facilities improvement plan where we can then address that down the road, but this is definitely a cost savings measure.
And so how are we choosing these pre-owned porta potties? I mean, I guess my question is this. I've been a football mom and sitting outside at games and all bundled up and then wedging myself into a facility, and one hopes that it's sufficiently accommodating for that we're not spending money on, I don't know.
Yeah, no, these units are the units that we use. I don't know if they're the actual ones that we have rented. They are? Okay, they are the ones that we've had on our property. So obviously they'll go through a thorough cleaning.
We were in a rent-to-own position.
Oh, Lord. Oh, gee. All right. Any other board members?
I have one question, Mr. Yuli. So is there maintenance or anything that we incurred throughout the 5 months that we rent these that we will then be taking on that we should account for?
That is the $1,000 per unit cost a year to have them serviced. And then our crews will winterize them and do whatever else is needed to shut them down for the winter.
Okay, so that's additional, and our crews will be trained and everything so that they're prepared to do it?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I have complete faith in our crews, but I just wanted to make sure they weren't taking on additional without, thank you.
We have an expected lifespan of that? I mean, no, seriously, because, we're putting in, we say it's $1,000 a year to service. I assume that's the chemicals that
clean chemicals,
them
pump,
to walk in.
yes.
But there's also, we know that washrooms get beat up, right? So currently, if something happens to that, we walk away from it, they do it, or what happens with that? What's the extra cost to, is there a warranty? Is there a service plan? There's a hidden cost there for what has to happen, right?
We'll absolutely follow up with that information. Warranty.
Does say there's a 12-month service warranty here. If repairs are needed during, they're covered.
Life
12 months.
expectancy.
So where will we store said porta potties during the off-season?
They stay there.
They stay outdoors?
thought they stayed there.
Come up and, yeah.
Annette, you need to come forward to the microphone, please. And state who you are and your title, so people at home will know, okay?
Yes, that before I decide to go for a quote and bring those units, I speak with all of the APOs in a school, on all 3 schools. I ask them if they would be interested for me to do that. And also, it's okay for them to store them during the winter time, if they will have a space. And they said yes. They were very excited, because also having those units, for them, they can brand them nicely. Like, we can make them nice looking from outside. We can maintain them inside, like we do with all of our bathrooms. It's the same kind of setups. They are just outside. That we have those units, they are the units that they bring us every year. And we do that for many years. We would like to have them the same, because we know, like, before they will come to the property, we will fully inspect them. We will be sure that they are fully operated, that they are not damaged, and they are what we are looking for. Then we will sign the final agreement. We have 12 months warranted when they will come and service anything what we needed. Then we have a CMA members that they can come every day, how they will come and clean them on a regular basis. They will also maintain and do any type of the maintenance that it's needed. And yes, the schools, they have a spots when we can store them.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are we done talking about porta potties? Oh, Mr. Dustling.
I just don't want the requirement put on the CMA to be excessive or more than what they're currently doing, because
That will be exactly the same what they're doing, because when we have them on a period from April to the end of the September, we have to maintain them. That is nothing extra.
Okay.
Okay, so CMA are not doing extra. Mr. Heineman.
A little bit off the subject, but not too far. What about ADA compliance at those 3 schools? How far is it to a ADA compliant washroom?
I'm sure it's different in each building, but obviously we have access to the indoor facilities for ADA purposes.
That those units, they are ADA compliant.
Wait.
The major reason to bring them to the property, it's like the people that they need to have the ADA, they can access them. This is the purpose of those trailers, because we have regular outside like portable washrooms, and people, they can use inside facility, but for people that they have any type of the disability or they need to have the close access, those trailers, they are ADA compliance.
So you can get to them in a wheelchair?
Yes, they have a special ramps and they have access and they have the handicap like bar, they have all of the codes and that's how they are prepared.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Just show the two things, but I know what she's talking about. They come in like this, right around. Okay. Porta potty discussion over? Okay, let's move on. Oh, teaching and learning, Dr. Lopez.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the board.
751, okay.
So I want to provide a discussion and some background information on two related topics, automatic acceleration and earned honors. I provided both to the board and to the community a brief summary of some of the findings related to both these topics, as well as some of the data is available in our public documents for the board. So first, automatic acceleration may not be something that the community or that it's fairly new, and that refers to state hold on. There we go. It refers to state legislation that requires the automatic placement of students into the next most rigorous level of coursework. This next most rigorous level of coursework would be honors, advanced placement, or dual credit. Originally, when the legislation was passed, it was expected that the impact would be greatest in the elementary schools. The elementary schools still did a lot of testing for gifted and honors students and identified a very small percentage of students in order to access some of that highest level curriculum. In District 214 for many years now, we have open access to advanced placement and expanded access to dual credit. However, after the legislation was passed, ISB provided the benchmarks, and this chart of benchmarks sort of indicates their recommendations for us to automatically advance students. The test score benchmarks that they identified were significantly lower than many of our benchmarks currently for accessing honors level coursework, particularly for incoming students. Because we're familiar with our current students and we focused on the diagonal movement of students and helping students reach the most rigorous coursework in our schools, we meet with students, our teachers know our students, they make recommendations, and kids move regularly into advanced placement into honors level. But for our incoming students was really going to be the most significant impact. So the benchmark that the state identified was 70 points below what some of our schools had already established. So a score of 410 gave you access to, on the evidence-based reading and writing test, on the PSAT 8, gave you access to freshman honors English, as well as into AP Human Geography freshman year, or if we would have had an honors Human Geography freshman year. For math, it was a test score of 450 into honors geometry, as long as you've already taken algebra. And for honors biology, a test score of both evidence-based reading and writing of 410 and the math benchmark in order to qualify for honors biology. All of these scores are lower than what some of our schools had already established. One interesting fact I did want to mention that we had 111 current EL students that have not passed access and exited EL but have met the benchmarks for automatic acceleration into honors, which I thought just was an interesting finding. The other piece I wanted to mention real quick before we move on to the next slide is at the very bottom, you'll notice that for us senior year, because of our dual credit partner and our special relationship with Eastern Illinois University, our students are able to access college-level English composition and literature with an evidence-based reading and writing score of 430. As well as the same test score gets them access to College Human Endeavors, which is basically a quantitative math class, a 101 math, which is a unique opportunity for our students. And there is no benchmark for students to access the college speech course senior year. So most of our students have access to all of those courses senior year. Okay. This is what this means, and this is a summary of what I talked about on that chart, sort of simplified, showing that for an incoming student, you are placed in those courses automatically. And I do think that's an important term, automatically. It doesn't mean that you have the option and that we call you and say, hey, do you want to go? It means that the school district is compelled to automatically place the students that meet those benchmark scores into those honors level, into the most rigorous level coursework that we have. And the parent can opt out. The next item I wanted to address is the difference between college preparatory, honors, and advanced placement. And this is our language and from both our handbook and our policy and practice. College preparatory is basically the 4.0 non-weighted course that refers to courses that are taught at grade level and prepare students to access early college experiences and post-secondary opportunities. That's just our regular curriculum. Our honors weighted 4.5 course is defined as honors courses intended to offer a more challenging academic experience that covers more material at an accelerated pace. These courses are designed for students who excel in certain subjects and are comfortable working independently. And then advanced placement, which is the highest weighted course for us, which is 5.0 on a 4.0 scale. Similar to rigor and honors, but you have the added piece of the advanced placement exam, and the course is utilizing College Board's syllabi and course materials in order to prepare students to be successful on that exam. Those are our three levels and how they're currently defined. Now, the implication of automatic acceleration is that we'll see this reduction in benchmarks to access honors will mean an increase of an additional 2,000 students in our districts taking the opportunity to take more rigorous coursework in English, social science, and science, with up to a 28% increase at some of our schools. And in math, it means about 350 students, in addition to what we've had previously, accessing more rigorous coursework, which is about up to 6% at some of our schools. And again, this is automatic placement. And before we move down to earn honors, we're discussing automatic acceleration because it'll have a direct implication on how we view earned honors and what's happening in that space, because in many ways it has some similar goals. So as we looked at earned honors, we have spent a few years in a pilot program, and we went through an extensive process evaluating the program, speaking with teachers, visiting classrooms, and collecting data, all of which the board has seen. So earned honors, for the purpose of the board and the community, provides the opportunity for all students to experience learning together with a focus on a common experience, and the potential for any student to earn a 4.5 weighted grade, which is that honors level grade. Doesn't mean every student in the course is going to earn it. It means they all have the potential to. And it has an explicit goal of increasing access to advanced placement and also on path to accredit coursework. We've implemented earned honors as a pilot at Elk Grove High School beginning in 2021 with freshman English, and then expanded to sophomore English, human geography, and biology. And it was implemented in school year 21-22 in freshman biology at Rolling Meadows High School. Now, what happened in each of these, important to keep in mind that these were each developed as a pilot independently in each department and in each school. So at the teacher level, among those PLCs, they worked collaboratively to develop the standards for students to earn honors. So in this presentation and in the documents, you'll see that in human geography, a student in that course can earn honors by meeting the minimum standards of a 2 on a 4-point scale in each of 4 standards on a research proposal, and that they have to earn at least a C grade in the course. And of course, I'm not an expert on any of these. This is what I've observed, this is what's written in the syllabus, and obviously what they've reached consensus on. For biology at Elk Grove High School, a student in biology earned honors through demonstrating mastery of the identified earned honors skills on 4 of the 6 assessments in each semester in 12 units. Many of the labs that they're using in earned honors biology at Elk Grove High School were the same labs they were using with the honors biology traditional course. And what they did was they elevated the specific labs they were doing with all students, and they have found a lot of success with it. And in English, a student has to earn at least a C in the course to meet a proficiency level on an 8.5 on a 10-point scale in 3 of the 4 honors designated summative skills on the assessments each semester. So these are the approach. It's reflected in the course syllabi. Teachers speak to their students and parents about this at the beginning of the course. And then in Rolling Meadows High School, again, each department in each building was working independently. They developed a criteria slightly different for earning honors in biology. For there, they have every unit offers options of review level and explore level activities. And then students get to choose. Am I going to do more review level activities? Or do I feel really strong in the content and I feel I want to be challenged by some of the explore level activities, which are activities that are at a much greater depth. They have to complete at least 75% of their activities in the Explorer level and then put that together in a portfolio, and they actually meet with the teachers one-on-one to discuss how they've met the standards for honors level work. And they also have summative tests that have questions that our students are expected to master, and that in order to earn honors, you have to earn a 70% or above on those and have an in-depth understanding that you can only accomplish through the Explorer level work. So again, each one a slightly different approach, but that each of those teacher teams work together to collaborate to create a standard of expectation. So some of the data that we have that was included, this is just a highlight, and I've invited Jeffrey, our Director of Research and Evaluation here. I'll go through some of these, but certainly we can, if you've got questions, he's also available to help us. So the first set, are you on the first page, or I think on the previous one? There you go. The percentage of students earning honors at Elk Grove in grade 9 increased significantly in year 1, but what's interesting is that has fallen in years 2 and 3, so it's sort of leveled off, right? Earned honors has closed some of the demographic gaps in honors level courses. Obviously, it's eliminated at Elk Grove High School. The immediate benefits in the English course grades, both weighted and unweighted, again, a greater impact initially, and then it's moderated in year 2 and 3 of implementation. The most profound effect has been the increase in access to AP English coursework by grade 11, and Elk Grove saw increases while other schools may have seen decreases in participation post-COVID. So those are some interesting finding. We can go to the next page. So students who entered who were scoring under a 430 were more likely to access advanced placement by junior year. The percentage of students earning honors in at least one semester at Rolling Meadows increased significantly from 36% to 55% and then to 57%, and it increased while enrollment in honors at other buildings remained stable or even decreased. And the increases in earning honors at Rolling Meadows occurred across almost every demographic group and were pronounced for students who came in at the lowest PSAT 8 evidence-based reading and writing and math scores. So just a broad summary. So the Earned Honors Pilot eliminates traditional tracking of students, it streamlines scheduling, and provides all students, regardless of previously demonstrated ability levels, with an opportunity to earn honors. There is supporting evidence that suggests increased access to advanced placement in English, but not necessarily in performance levels on the assessment. Currently. The current iteration of some of the earned honors courses do not meet the criteria for an honors level course as defined in the district academic handbook. And the impact of automatic acceleration is expected to increase honors access across the district, resulting in really comparable rates of earning honors at all school sites. So there were 3 recommendations based on the evaluation. The first one really is, you can see that each teacher group took a different approach. They all have their merits and all have their strengths, but the first recommendation is really standardize the approach to grading to meet the articulation of achievement levels in the earned honors coursework that reflects the district standard. We certainly can have a discussion if we don't think the district standard is the right one, and that would be part of the conversation. Second, provide opportunities for significant professional development to staff on differentiation strategies. The Rolling Meadows staff really independent on their own. I give them a significant amount of credit, reached out to a group called Modern Classrooms Project, where it really helps the facilitation of differentiation of instruction at different levels that I just think is really powerful. And that might be something worth investing in and expanding and providing to other staff. And third, providing access to a consistent freshman year core curriculum to all students district-wide. Now, this is simply stated, but it really is not a simple statement. And what that means is, and I'll give you an example. Currently, if you are a typical freshman in Human Geo, you're earning civics as part of the Human Geography course. There's some that would argue that we really should be doing civics with all students in the same class together. Right now, we have those segregated, right? Different levels. You have some honors or some AP students. And my hope is that maybe collecting feedback and seeing, is that an area that we need to rethink how that works, particularly currently, and identify perhaps civics in a different way. Also, there's some schools that offer some opportunities in coursework that other schools don't. And so and facilitating those dialogue to ensure that we have a consistent freshman core. It doesn't mean we can't have different electives and different opportunities depending on interests of students, but for us to facilitate conversation and ensure that everyone has access to comparable experiences. And that concludes my summary of the presentation, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, I want you to go first, Ms. Rao.
All right. Dr. Lopez, thank you very much for that summary. My first question is, okay, so this was a pilot, and the schools that participated in this pilot clearly had an objective in mind. Do these schools feel they met their objective through their pilot?
In my conversations with the administration and teachers at each of the schools, they are very excited and feel very confident about the impact they're seeing in the classroom, as much qualitatively as it is quantitatively. They feel good about the experience students are having. None of them feel that they're done. It is a pilot for a reason. It's been a couple of years. Many of them have described to me that they have made significant changes each year in order to get it right. And they expect that they are going to continue to have to make some modifications. But they feel very, I mean, I don't want to speak for them, but what they said to me was that they were very confident in the work that they were doing.
Okay. Having had the opportunity to observe English at Elk Grove in the Earned Honors and the biology at Rolling Meadows, I can't say enough of what our educators have done to create this program. The time, the commitment, the philosophy behind that, I definitely appreciate that. And I just want to make sure that for all the energy and all the effort, that everyone is benefiting through it, the educators as well as the students. That is my first concern. You made a few recommendations, and I really appreciate that. The first one is the standardization, and I'm going to kind of ask about the Auto Accelerate and the standardization of the Earned Honors program. The state has said that we have a cutoff, and they can get promoted to the next level. In this case, because the Earned Honors allows the honors for Human Geo, Elk Grove and Rolling Meadows have that advantage. I realize on the flip side, the other schools, because they don't have honors Human Geo, because we either have regular Geo or college prep, college prep or AP.
Yes.
If you're above that cutoff, then you are automatically put in AP, which appears like a great advantage, except if you're really not prepared for it, then it's a disadvantage. And so I am concerned that Elk Grove, while it doesn't necessarily offer AP as a freshman for that Human Geo, that's a potential disadvantage. And the flip side, there's the disadvantage for the students who are put into AP when they could have been placed into honors. So I would like to understand if that is a standardization we need to look into. where are we at, and maybe Dr. Rowe, you can advise, this is remaining a pilot, or is this, and I understand that education, like everything, continues to evolve, and I really appreciate, again, our educators continuing. They saw, I mean, the first year they did this was during COVID. So not only do they go to Zoom, they have this whole new curriculum, and I really want to emphasize that, when we have these individual classes, the college prep up to the AP, you can focus on that, on those students at their ability, but these teachers are taking all of those abilities and creating differentiation. That is a lot of work and a lot of commitment on their part, so I do really want to emphasize and appreciate that. So again, where are we at on the pilot? Are we continuing the pilot, or is this a recommendation to put this in full-time, and if that is the case, will it be going into the curriculum catalog?
Well, I think where we stand on this now is as Dr. Lopez said, need more time. I don't think, you won't hear me refer to it as a pilot. It's more of Elk Grove has an innovation that they're working on, and they're going through the iteration process. Dr. Lopez mentioned the adjustment in grades, and part of the reason that some of those grades went down was Elk Grove recognized the level of rigor needed to be increased after year one, and made that adjustment, which I commend them for, because it was the right move. What we've learned from this is that there is a certain balance that we have to strike in the district on a district standard. And there's a district standard of honors level instruction that we've been having some internal conversations of what that needs to be. And so kind of where I am right now and in our conversations, if there's a district standard, whether you're teaching at any of the high schools in a more traditional honors class or an earned honors class, the goal and expectation is that you still achieve this standard. The options are just there for a student in an Elk Grove earned honors class to elect to push to that versus stay at that exploratory level instead of the whatever, I forget the terminology that you used, the review versus the exploratory. Thank you. But we don't have that district standard tight enough. And so that's, in our conversations, that's the initial step that we need to make, so that not every school is going to offer the exact same experience, but every school in a honors algebra 1 ought to be offering, or maybe that's a bad example because math's math, but an honors English 1 ought to have that similar experience. You just may have, as earned honor or as auto accelerator is going to show us, you don't know what may walk through the door. You may have a wider variety of academic abilities walk through the door, especially with auto accelerate, and we don't know the impact that that's going to have yet. So we think we owe it to the work that's been done at Elk Grove and Rolling Meadows to continue to support this, watching auto accelerate, and establishing that district standard that I believe is going to offer the additional support that our teachers need to keep growing this innovation. And I think that's what's been missing from this. They've done this on their own. We want to provide a little bit more oomph behind them. And that'll actually, Dr. Lopez and I, as we've been talking, is going to go beyond just honors level courses and earned honors as a concept. There's a certain level of balance that we have to strike as a district of what is site-based control versus district control. And we've had some great conversations with the principals on where is that balance, because we don't want the pendulum to swing too far in one direction, because we're not going to be the district that has controlled at the district level. That's not who we are, that's not in our DNA, and that's not how innovation is bred. But there's a certain level of consistent agreements that we all are working toward, and levels of instruction is going to be one of them.
I appreciate that. And, as Ms. Palmer talks about, we just want to make sure every student has an equal opportunity. And agreed, it will look differently. Aside from, once that definition and that standard is established, from what is expected, there's also the grading aspect. And I would appreciate a little more clarification. I understand a little bit about how you get the honors credit, and that is actually executed after both semesters are completed, is my understanding, or after each semester is completed. The honors designation is recognized. I just want to make sure that if a student really wants a college prep, wants to perform at a college prep level, have the opportunity to achieve an A, B, C, or D, whatever they choose, based on the effort that they put forward, as well as an A, B, C, or D at the honors level, if they choose to. So that it's not only everyone who gets an A per se is designated honors, that you can get a B in honors, because if you were taking honors anywhere else, and again, that's just making sure every student has that opportunity. If I go to another school in the district and I take honors, I get a B, where if I take an earned honors, I only get the A. So I would like a little more clarification on that.
And help me on this, Boz, because I'm probably going to misspeak on this, but I think that's actually where the beauty of earned honors as a concept comes in, is that it's really about depth of knowledge on those intentional strands. And Dr. Kelly, I would invite you to come maybe expound on this from your experience if I misspeak, or you can just say it better than I am. But the ability on their exams to show a different level of depth of knowledge earns that credit. Even if it's at a C level, you still have that, I don't know if I butchered that or not.
We've spoken a little bit about this in the past, and I've spoken with different board members about this over time. And thank you for your questions and your patient dialogue about the topic as a whole. It's an extremely important topic. As has been described already, it is teacher innovation and extraordinary teacher work and teacher passion that put this into action in the very first place. We did not top down this ever at any point. Our English teachers said, we feel like we need this, and it was in the immediacy of post-COVID, but in the midst of that COVID hybrid year, that they said, now is the time, it's the only time, this is why we need to go for this, and it's the outcomes that we're aiming for. It's can you show proficiency in this? And in each of those areas, it is correct that they are not identical sets of parameters in our biology, human geography, and written and oral communication courses. But in each of those, they have emphasized what can the student demonstrate as a proficiency that's going to be the determining factor in whether they earn this or not. It's not going to be, can they tolerate what I have put them through? It's going to be, what can they demonstrate at the end? And as you saw early, and this is not a product of these teachers wanting to give higher grades, in that year, that hybrid year, grades were a very difficult concept. We had kids that were in their homes. We had kids that were barely on the camera. We had kids that we were trying to reach and couldn't really make personal connections with. And when you look back at that, it looks really high how many kids got honors credit. And in each of the years, while we're certainly not proud that fewer kids earned honors credit, that's not it's not a source of pride. The source of pride is constant professional reflection and refining that has gotten our teachers to feel more solid with the choices they're making about what is it that's going to demand, or that's going to demonstrate an honors achievement level in that course. Whereas they feel regularly that when they taught honors sections, they weren't always sure exactly what it was that were getting them the honors credit. They just had more and faster, and they felt like, we need something better than that. We need, what can you actually perform? What can you do? And that was the determining factor. It's extremely important to note what Dr. Rose said. None of them believe it's a finished product. None of them believe they've got the nut cracked and they've got it just as it needs to be. All of them are professional beyond my wildest expectations and continue to refine and work extremely hard to serve our kids every day.
You know, we hear from parents that are not happy about the standardization across the district. We've put everybody through the ringer here, asking questions and everything else. What do the students say? What's their experience? If we heard the voice of the student, what would they say?
It's a great question. There are students who have said that their degree of being pushed to have to demonstrate is more, that they have learned how to cite, do research, and acquire and process information to create something more. They have learned how to communicate with a wider audience than they have had to before. All of these are some of the where do you see that measured? It's hard to see it measured, but qualitatively speaking, the outcomes from students that we have asked this question of is, it is pushing me in these ways. Do any students say, it's harder in my AP class than it is in what it was in an earned honors class? Yes, I have heard students say that. And so the idea that it's easier is not something that any of our teachers or anybody wants. And so, again, it's part of that calibration that's there.
But I always like the expression, are they running towards it or running away from it? Are they running towards this?
Yes, I believe yes. And our students have said they do have to and enjoy the diversity of their student peers in the room with them the entire time in those courses, because there isn't a separation of those students into different sections. It is all audiences, all topics, all together in certain courses for that select amount of time. Not forever, and not in all courses. Because of course we want our kids to shine in their individual areas of excellence and push themselves to even higher outcomes. It's always been about the end point for each individual kid. Any of these decisions have been made with what's the end point for each individual kid. College readiness demonstrated by college credit, if possible. Career orientation with experiences in the workplace, in work-based learning, if possible. An orientation toward helping each other and learning together and caring about our communities. And we feel like this is working us toward all of those goals simultaneously.
I did want to mention, since there was a question about grades, there's only a 1/10 different in GPA or in grade in that freshman honors English class pre-pilot, not pilot, to pilot. So there's been not a significant impact on grades. There's not necessarily been any kind of grade inflation or anything like that.
I think, can I ask one more question, Paul? Sorry. You know, a lot of soft skills, we say, you know, redefining ready, make them college ready, or ready to succeed after leaving 214. Some things that you don't learn in high school unless you get the connection is being vulnerable and how to deal in a vulnerable situation. After looking at all of this, it seems to me that we're expanding those students' mindset that it's okay to be vulnerable, and what can I take from it, and how do I grow from being that vulnerable? Because it seems like, from my vantage point, we're creating a safe place for them to come in and say, yep, I feel good about here, help me get to where I want to go, rather than walking into AP class and going, well, you know, the exchange rate on an A and AP is really, it's like, I don't want to do the math. If we're setting the kids up for success like this, that vulnerability piece and learning how to navigate through that, I think is an added value that's not talked about a lot here.
I do agree, and at the end, our goal is that our students receive college credit, if it's at all possible, and the number of students at our school that have earned college credit in last year's graduating class, over 80%. Our goal is to have the end point be the right outcome for the kids. In the moments of the years, there's always some degree of what you thought would be right or not right, but what do we get in the aggregate over the course of all the courses, over all the years, and all the staff and peers our students can interact with? We deeply believe that we can do both of those things. We can have the right level of delineation and separation with community and learning certain concepts and themes together with an audience that's as diverse as our community every day. And more importantly, our teachers deeply believe that that's the right thing to do. And I do think that the families overwhelmingly have stated that they believe that this has been a positive outcome for their kids. One of our parent-teacher council statements about what do they like most about Elk Grove High School, one of the top things was the freshman courses and the way that they're structured where everyone is in together. Is that a universally held belief? I doubt it, because there's always someone who's going to feel like, I don't know. And so I don't mean to denigrate or disrespect anybody who thinks there's a better way, because frankly, we believe there's always a better way. We can always do a better job. And but the passion and work in our staff has been just over the top, and the feelings attached to this have been positive and strongly so.
Thanks, Paul.
have another question.
Well, it's clear why you've gotten Educator of the Year, et cetera, over time. You're a very good speaker, and I really enjoy listening and hearing what you have to say. I've been a big proponent of earned honors over time for the simple reason that I don't think a kid should be defined on their opportunities by what they score on a single day. You know, you have a stomach ache, you had a fight with your mom, whatever. You wake up and you perform poorly on a test, and your opportunities fritter away, right? Or even going back in time, you were in second or third grade and you didn't develop skills at the same rate. You were in a lull when they picked out who got to go to the higher math, and that's been dogging you over time. So I love the idea that a student, I feel it's very, very American dream, can go and say, no, don't put me in a box. I am going to bootstrap. I'm going to be where I believe I should be. I guess I love that because there's a lens of equity. What troubles me is that at different high schools, and again, I don't want the high schools to be alike. I know it sounds like it. I don't. But I do want that same type of opportunities to be not necessarily identical, but the same types of opportunities at our different schools. And one of the things that I think I heard here was that some of the schools don't have an AP Human Geo, others do. Well, if you're maybe like me, and you're trying to get the best ever, and you're always super competitive on stuff, if you're at a school that doesn't offer as many AP classes as another school does, there's no way you can finish with as high of a GPA, right? It's like it's just not mathematically possible. So things like that on where students have opportunities, where they can wind up, one school to the other, and whether or not the honors level rigor in a particular earned honors level class or a straight up honors level class, whether the rigor of what the knowledge that we're trying to get the student to achieve is at the same level. And again, I don't want things to be identical. I'm not looking for us to sit kids in little rows, and every kid's different and learns differently. So I'm very conflicted. Do you think that, and there is a question here, do you think that the auto acceleration how do you think it's going to impact that earned honors? Does it, you know what I mean? Is it the same?
So one of the things that Elk Grove accomplished and Rolling Meadows with earned honors is really sort of liberalizing and opening up the doors to a lot more students to access honors. The reality is that's going to happen in every single one of our schools because of automatic acceleration, where a majority of our students at all of our schools will be starting in honors, which wasn't necessarily the case. And so you will see a much broader span of students in our honors sections, whether you're studying at Prospect or Buffalo Grove or Elk Grove. So they'll look more alike than different. The uniqueness of the approach that's being taken with earned honors is that it really is providing an access to every student, not just even though majority of our students are scoring within those ranges of the benchmarks, certainly not all of them. And so it encompasses even a bit more of the student population. But we have many of our schools where most students will be sitting in an honors section next fall.
Go ahead. Can I do a quick follow-up to that question? I know I took some time, but considering that there is a benchmark now, does that mean if they're above 410, they're automatically considered an honors student then through earned honors?
They're considered an honors student across the entire district automatically, and Paul can certainly respond as well, but at Elk Grove, not only every student has access to honors, and they do get to decide whether or not, to what extent they want to.
Right, but at the other schools, they have the option to opt out. They can request to opt out, but will they have to, because technically then would you be grading them as an honors student? They will be
The student
expected.
doesn't have to earn, they can opt out on their own. They're not compelled to have to meet the honors benchmark.
Correct, they don't reach that degree of proficiency, and therefore they didn't earn the credit in the honors.
That's how it is currently, but now that there's a score minimum, do we automatically hold them to that honors standard, or do we have to put on a sheet
I
that
think
they're
what you're
going
getting at
to opt out?
is the auto accelerate means that they would automatically be placed in the next available course up. And then there's not a next available course up is the point. So they're in it, they'll be encouraged. A teacher now has more data on this student and say, hey, nudge, you can do this. Let me help you do this. And I think that's the beauty of what earned honors is as a concept as they continue to work on it, is the ability as a teacher forms that relationship with a student to push them just a little further and show them they can, and it opens up doors beyond that classroom.
I wasn't sure if the auto accelerate put a constraint on it, sorry.
Mr. Fiorito.
I don't have a question, but I just want to make a comment. So I was at that meeting on Tuesday when you talked to the Elk Grove High School parents about the Earned Honors Program. And I thought your presentation was very good, by the way. The one thing that you did say was you clearly focused on the role of the counselor and the student, and how the counselors met with all the students multiple times and talked to them about what classes they should take. And in some cases, you mentioned that the counselors were pushing some of the kids to say, hey, take a chance and step up. And I thought that was great. The problem I have, and that's really not a problem, but it's just a suggestion, is that, and I'm going to put in automatic acceleration as well, is I think that what's happening is we have students that are getting the information, but the parents are not. And I think that we've seen it for the past year, at least, where we have some parents, a subset of parents, and it might be more, might be less, that do not understand how the Earned Honors Program works. And I know in some cases we have tried to explain it, and I'll be honest with you, even today, still a little bit confused about how it works a little bit, because my kids go to Hersey, and I'm pretty well versed in what happens there, and Elk Grove and Rolling Meadows are a little bit different. But my concern is now we've got automatic acceleration coming on board next fall, and I just think it would be in our best interest to do our best to educate the parents on what automatic acceleration is, so that way they can understand why their kids might be in a different class, or might be, have leveled up and not understand why. And that's just my comment.
Can they opt out automatic acceleration?
Yes.
The parent,
parent can
based
opt
on
out.
they can opt their child out.
Yeah, okay.
And so just for clarity, all parents have been communicated with if their child was eligible and has been auto-accelerated, as well as what options they have if they elect to opt out or remain in. But I think the point about Earned Honors is well taken, and one we had on our radar. Thank you.
Mr. Dusling?
Mr. Lopez, you mentioned that probably by auto-acceleration, we'd have 3,500 students in one case affected, and then I believe another 400 or 500 in another?
Yeah, 2,000 additional students that we would have in honors next year that we wouldn't have had.
Yeah. So is our staff ready to take on that higher level of honors courses that are coming in? I mean, is that, do we have to do something with our staff to get them ready?
Yes, so what it's going to mean is that there needs to be a greater level of differentiation regarding strategies in the classroom. And Gabriella, our Director of Professional Learning, has put together a series of professional development. All of our associate principals for instruction at each of our buildings are preparing their teachers and putting together programming for both this spring as well as this summer to help teachers. We are going to have teachers that hadn't necessarily taught honors before that are going to be teaching honors section. We're going through that process right now to identify sectioning and then identify, we're not at the point yet of who's teaching what, but we're laying the groundwork in order to be prepared We have really high-quality staff. And so I'm confident they're going to certainly meet the expectation of teaching honors. The challenge is really going to be differentiating because now you have a broader spectrum of student abilities in your classroom.
I understand it, and certainly our staff is well qualified, and I'm very proud of them. I guess my question is, how many do we identify that we feel have to look at the honors curriculum that they may be teaching and how diversified as it is, and need some more training? I mean, have we got a figure on the number of people?
We'll know after staffing, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think to Dr. Lopez's point is the professional learning that's being planned now, but then also different instructional approaches like the modern classroom project is something we're looking very closely at that changes how you approach the classroom in general with a focus on differentiation. And then there's the emphasis on some of the structures we already have in place throughout the district and our professional learning communities, because some of the best professional learning on how to differentiate is teachers sharing with teachers of, I've got such a wide range, how are you tackling this? Or even looking at their scores, you're having great success. What are you doing that I might be doing different? That's where it really happens in the professional learning communities. We're prepared to not only support that, but then also help with those strategies. So it'll be an ongoing effort for sure.
So we're ready to live within the confines of the staff that we have, except possibly some okay.
I don't believe additional staff will be necessary to address earned honors, auto accelerated needs.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
You're excused, Dr. Kelly.
Wait, I have
no, you're not. Sorry.
Mr. Kelly, do you feel that your staff, speaking about the support amongst the PLCs, unfortunately, your division head and some at Rolling Meadows, when those learning committees get together, they may not have as much support. Where are they finding their support? Because they're doing things slightly differently. I mean, you can feed off of other division heads, but where are they feeling the support that they need and getting ideas?
So Elk Grove has been, I'm proud to say, Elk Grove has been having more students try AP coursework at later years in high school than our counterparts in large measure, especially in English. And so we have sort of a ready-made a kind of go-to group of people who have been doing this for quite some time. They've already had more acceptance of kids that other people may have said, I don't know about that kid. They've said, no, let's do it. And so there's internal strength at our school of people who just deeply philosophically believe, let's go. And it doesn't mean it's easy, it doesn't mean they feel like they've got it figured out, but there's an emotional support network inside, staff to staff, and division head to division head. In addition, there are some area schools that have undergone some things that like work like this, and there's a network of people, there's a network called the Bridges of Opportunity Network, and some staff here in 214 have attended workshops, some schools around us that have undertaken this kind of work that talk to each other and look to each other for support. And how do your teachers feel as well? Because if our teachers didn't feel this, we certainly would not push them through this if they didn't emotionally support it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anybody else? Wait, stop. Anybody else?
Going.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Thank you, Dr. Lopez.
Thank you.
Great discussion, board members.
Buzz.
Mr. Mogi, anything with community engagement?
I have no updates at this time.
Oh, thank you very much. So we are now at the point of closed session. I need a motion and a second to go into closed session for the purpose of discussing the employment compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, specific individuals who serve as independent contractors in an educational setting, or legal counsel for the public body, 5 ILCS 122C1. And our second reason is student disciplinary cases, 5 ILCS 122C9. Motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please call a roll.
Fiorito?
Yes.
Palmer?
Aye.
Dusling?
Yes.
Heineman?
Aye.
Rauch? Walker?
Yes.
And Kreutzer.
So we will have action after closed session. How long do you think closed session will last? 30 to 45 minutes. We'll be back. Thank you very much. Closed session, and we have a few things for roll call. So we got 911.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please call roll.
Dessling?
Yes.
Fiorito?
Yes.
Heineman?
Aye.
Palmer?
Aye.
Rauch? Aye. Walker?
Yes.
And Kreutzer?
Aye. Motion carries 7-0.
Yes, motion carries 7-0, PTRs.
Thank you. 912.
I move to approve the modified purchasing, transportation, and business services supervisor job description.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Heineman?
Aye.
Rauch? Aye. Dessling?
Yes.
Fiorito?
Yes.
Palmer?
Aye.
Walker?
Yes.
Kreutzer?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
So then we have 921.
I motion to approve the accounts payable for December 21st, 2023 and January 5th, 2024.
Second, please.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Walker?
Yes.
Palmer?
Aye.
Dessling?
Yes.
Fiorito?
Yes.
Heineman?
Aye.
Rauch? Aye. And Kreutzer?
Aye, thank you. This is the first time we've done this committee of the whole, and I hope it works for you all. We'll be talking about this later on in the year if you want to continue this, but I believe it went smoothly tonight, but that's just my opinion. So, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Palmer?
Aye.
Rauch? Aye. Dessling?
Yes.
Fiorito?
Yes.
Heineman?
Aye.
Walker?
Yes.
Kreutzer?
Aye,
We are adjourned at 9:55.
thank you. Good night.